All right, prostitution charges in Arizona could be serious. They have mandatory statutory minimums, even if you've never been in trouble before, minimums of jail time. Your first offense could be at least 15 days in jail. You might not be eligible for home detention or house arrest, things of that nature. The jail time or mandatory minimums of jail time continue to go up for each prior prostitution conviction that you have. Whether you be the lady of the night, that might be out there engaged in these services, or whether or not you're the John who's trying to solicit the services. So with that being said, what are the elements of prostitution? The elements of prostitution are basically just engaging in a discussion or an exchange of sexual acts for anything of value. It could be a penny. It doesn't need to be $100. It doesn't need to be $60. It could be a ham sandwich. You could exchange a ham sandwich for a blowjob. That could potentially be a prostitution act. What we see in these types of investigations, there's often sometimes sophisticated investigations, but there's 4 different things that we're looking for as the defense lawyers to try to pick apart these types of cases to determine whether or not the police properly investigated and identified indicia of prostitution. For the ladies, or it could be guys too, but for the ladies engaged or allegedly engaged in the acts, this is what we're looking for. Whether or not the law enforcement officers set up poll cams or surveillance cameras of the areas that they're looking at to determine whether or not there's only one sex going into the location, that they're going to claim is indicative of prostitution, because if it's only males going into a massage parlor, for example, and not females, they're going to claim that obviously that is indicative of some sort of sex act, which in and of itself is BS, right? After that, you'll also have surveillance footage or photos of the people coming in and out. They'll try to track down what ladies are going in and out on a regular basis. They will do something called John stops. They'll stop individuals coming out of the massage parlor, and they'll try to, or the massage parlor or house, whatever it may be, and they'll try to interrogate them about whether or not they engage in any type of sex act for money in there, and sometimes people just all of a sudden spill the beans, all right? Additionally, what you're looking for is whether or not an officer engaged in an undercover solicitation of prostitution. If they went in there, started trying to engage in conversations of sex for money, they'll record it typically on their phone that they'll leave on the side of the table. There'll be discussions of certain types of sex acts for money, and then all of a sudden they'll get a call from somebody else who's listening in to the conversation, another law enforcement officer, that will end basically negotiation of sex act before the sex act occurs. So that's another thing that we're looking for. Additionally, when they review or they execute a search warrant or they raid the place for prostitution acts, they'll be looking for condoms, they'll be looking for money, they'll be looking for ledgers. Those are things that they're going to be looking for. Also, if it's a woman who's just in the blade, they're going to possibly be looking at cell phones to see what kind of communications they're engaged in with cell phones. They'll look at what they were wearing, the types of conversations that they were having with people, if they were offering people certain types of prices for sex acts. Those are things that we're looking for to determine whether or not they've properly investigated the case. A lot of times things that come up, we have issues with identification in prostitution cases. We have issues with language barriers. That's another issue. We have duress or coercion could be a possible defense. There are a ton of issues. There are also money laundering investigations oftentimes associated with these, criminal syndicate investigations associated with these. We spend a lot of time investigating and picking apart these types of cases, so give us a call.